don't like the way we look. This phony society has fixed where we can get most anything. We want falseness. Isn't that right? A person is not pleased with his outlook or the way he looks. This phony society has so fixed that he can get whatever else it takes to fix him up. Right now, we're not pleased. Excuse me now.
What's going on? Welcome to San Miguel TV. This is San Miguel. Just doing a video just to bring up a few topics that I'm seeing. Well, the main topic right now that is in the news cycle is just everything is politics right now. And everything is surrounded around Black Lives Matter. And if a politician supports that or not is going to determine whether they get elected pretty much, and whether the black community is going to be behind them, which seems a lot like some cult behavior. Whenever you see that a group tries to divide people, and especially using race and saying that if you're not with us, you're against us, you see this is just an overgeneralization, and it's brought on by black and white thinking. The truth is that there's always gray areas where people might not completely agree with the things that you believe in, your political views, but they might agree with you on certain points. And that's not enough to turn away a possible ally and to group someone and vilify them. I see that this reporter that used to be down with ESPN, I believe, Jamel Hill, she posted that if you vote for Trump, just plain and simple, you're a racist. And that's definitely an overgeneralization, just grouping everybody into one category. And you see that's become the norm nowadays, is that people are trying to look for racism in everything and every little aspect and every comment that Trump makes, and they try to turn that into a political thing and try to get black people behind this next presidential election, which Democrats or black people usually vote Democratic for whatever reason. The Democratic Party seems to be pandering to the black community. I mean, constantly.
What's something that you always carry with you?
Hot sauce.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Are you getting information right now?
Hot sauce.
Hot sauce in my bag, swag?
Hot sauce.
Really?
Yes.
Now listen, I
yes.
just want you to know, people are going to see this and say, okay, she's pandering to black people again.
Okay. Is it working?
So just like religion, politics can be very divisive, where you're pretty much put into a false dichotomy that you have to choose either between the Republican and the Democrat. This is called the lesser of two evils now, where you're looking at Trump. They're trying to make Trump look so bad to where Joe Biden looks better than Trump, which Joe Biden right now is just a mess.
And to get hot, I got hairy legs that turn blonde in the sun. And the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down so it was straight, and then watch the hair come back up again. They look at it. So I learned about roaches. I learned about kids jumping on my lap. And I've loved kids jumping on my lap.
Almost every interview that Joe Biden does, he just makes a fool out of himself. And interview that he had with Charlemagne, you can see he pretty much stated that you're not really black if you're deciding whether to vote for him or Trump in this next election.
Wait until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
It don't have nothing to do with Trump.
Showing you that bias and that just that automatic approval that Democrats are supposed to get from the black community, and that automatic support that by default, just because you're black, you have to vote for Biden. I mean, people are going to come to their conclusions, of course. Sometimes people come to conclusions before they look at all the evidence. And a lot of times people get misinformation or disinformation in this current climate that we have, with the news cycle just constantly appealing to the black community about these different cases that you have where a black person is shot because of a cop. It's not always due to negligence, and it's not always due to over-aggression. Sometimes it is a response to some fire coming at them, they respond back. With the case of Breonna Taylor, this woman was shot in her own home because the cops had a no-knock warrant. And when they started busting down the door, Kenneth Walker, who was Breonna Taylor's boyfriend, started shooting at the door, didn't realize it was the cops. The cops shot back and killed Breonna Taylor. They did have a warrant. Part of the misinformation that's being spread, and this is being done by the Democratic Party, is that the cops did not have a warrant, that they had they had the incorrect house, which is false information. They actually had 2 warrants that same night. The first warrant that they served was successful, and they ended up arresting 2 gentlemen who actually snitched or dimed on Kenneth Walker, who was Breonna Taylor's boyfriend. And then the cops, continuing their investigation, they were able to obtain that same night another warrant for Breonna Taylor's home. And you can look at the PDF of the warrant online, and it has Breonna Taylor's address, and her name was on the warrant. Even though they came for Kenneth Walker, his name was not on the lease, so they didn't have that information just yet. When they came into the home, they were shot at, and a cop was actually shot. So they ended up shooting back, and that's why Breonna Taylor was killed. There were no drugs on the premises, so the tip was unsuccessful, but that still doesn't mean that you could charge the cops with murder, because they were actually responding back to fire being shot at them. So that's self-defense. And also, Kenneth Walker shouldn't be charged with murder attempt because he thought that the cops were breaking into his house. So it's not an attempted murder charge. I mean, they dropped that the day after George Floyd was killed by Derek Chauvin. Now, on June 3rd, see, this story with Breonna Taylor has been going on since March 13th, I believe is the date. So this story is already 3 months old, and then almost 3 months old. And then the Democratic Party on June 5th decided to post on their Facebook page false information that the cops went to this house where Breonna Taylor was with no warrant and actually killed her. And you see, this is charging up the emotions of the black community, because they constantly feel like they're being treated unjustly. And when this story, there's just, they try to hype it up, but there's really nothing there. But as you can see, if you go online, on Instagram or Twitter, you still have, I mean, hundreds of thousands of people that believe that the cops went there and went to the wrong house, didn't have a warrant, and that's just incorrect. That's not true information. So there's a lot of misinformation being put out there, and it looks like this is done purposely to rile up the black community to go and protest, so they can have more injustices and more stories, and they can blame all of that on Trump and say, you see what's happening during Trump's presidency? There's so much social unrest. When really it's the Democratic Party that's putting out false information in order to make it seem as if this is all happening because of Trump's presidency. So politics is real divisive and real messy, and you got to be careful, what information you take as true, and check your sources. Because just running with whatever information you get off of a meme or off of a post on social media, that's not doing the legwork, and that's called being intellectually lazy. So don't let these people fool you and control you emotionally, to what stories you should respond to with more outrage, because that's exactly what's being done in this election year. So I'm going to end it at that, and I'll be back with some more videos soon.